It was a Thursday evening when Laura brought it up, all fake casual, while we were sitting at the dinner table. Outside, the sun was sinking behind the rows of tired old houses, and the crickets had started their nightly racket. Laura was swirling a glass of cheap Chardonnay, a bright smile plastered across her lips, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. She stabbed at her grilled chicken like it had personally offended her. "You know," she said, "my high school reunion is next weekend. I think it'd be good for us to go. A night out. Fun." I looked up from my plate, chewing slowly. I grunted. "Since when do you care about high school?" I asked. I'd never heard her say a single good thing about it before. In fact, I remembered her calling it the most miserable 4 years of my life more than once. She waved a hand dismissively, laughing a little too hard. "Oh, you know. Things change. It'll be good for you to meet some of my old friends. Nostalgia and all that." I shrugged. "Sure. Why not?" She beamed, a little too eagerly. Later that night, after she thought I was in the garage working on the generator, I caught a whisper of a phone call. I stayed still, hidden just inside the door. "No, he doesn't suspect anything," she said. "It's all set. Next weekend. I can't wait to see you again." Her giggle made my skin crawl. That was all I needed to hear. I didn't burst in. I didn't scream. I didn't even move. I just smiled, slow, cold, and backed away. That night, after she fell asleep face down on the bed, snoring lightly in her silk nightgown, I sat at the kitchen table with a bottle of bourbon and her phone in front of me. Installing the tracking app was easy. I knew her passcode. 4 digits, our anniversary. Date, ironically, a few swipes, a few taps, and I had full access. Messages, location, camera, everything. For the next few days, I played the good husband. I fixed the leaky faucet. I mowed the lawn. I even brought her coffee in bed one morning, watching her fake a sleepy smile like we were some sitcom couple. Meanwhile, I was watching her real life unfold in my hand. Text to a name saved as Maddie, but Maddie liked to call her baby girl when they thought no one was looking. I tracked her movements. She said she was running errands at the mall, but her GPS lit up in the parking lot behind an old motel off. Friday night, 2 days before the reunion, I sat in my truck just across the street from that crap-hole motel, lights off, engine idling, and sure enough, Laura's little silver SUV pulled in. 5 minutes later, a tall bastard with a shaved head and a leather jacket climbed into her passenger seat. I didn't need to guess who he was. Nick, the high school boyfriend she always described as trouble. The bad boy phase she said she grew out of. Liar. I watched them sit there for a while, heads close together, her hands snaking up his thigh like it was muscle memory, before they finally got out and disappeared into room 114. Saturday. Morning came, sticky and gray. A light drizzle tapped against the kitchen window like impatient fingers. Laura was in the shower, singing badly to some pop song from the early 2000s. I sat at the kitchen island, her phone in my hand, scrolling through the proof. It wasn't just dirty texts. There were photos, not selfies. Full-on, filthy shots. Her, bare-ass bent over motel sheets, her mouth around Nick's cock, her naked body pressed up against a grimy bathroom mirror while he grinned behind her. I stared at them for a long minute. She hadn't just made a mistake. She had built a whole second life right under my roof. When Laura came down an hour later, all bright-eyed, wet-haired, wearing a stupid, good-vibes-only sweatshirt, I greeted her with a kiss on the forehead. Played my part. Because I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to punch holes in walls like some drunken fool on a Lifetime special. I was going to ruin her. That evening, while she fake laughed at reruns on the couch, I made a quiet call to an old buddy of mine, Derek, a tech guy I knew from college. He owed me. When Derek picked up, I got straight to the point. "You still know how to crack a slideshow at an event." He chuckled darkly. Needed to loop porn over the gym projector again. Worse, I said. Way worse. He whistled low. You got it, man. Just get me a copy of the slideshow file before the event. USB drive's the best. No problem. I already knew Laura had forwarded the reunion committee some old photos for the big memory lane, presentation, class pictures, prom snapshots, all that sentimental crap. All I had to do was get into her email, pull the attachment, and load up the real show. Which I did, that night, while she snored into her pillow, mouth open like a goddamn cartoon character. By Sunday afternoon, the plan was locked in tight. The reunion was at Eastbrook High's gym, the same crap gym with the water stains on the ceiling and the flickering scoreboard that never worked right. The program listed the slideshow right after the Best Couple award and the Where Are They? Now, speeches. A perfect crowd, packed with her old friends, their spouses, teachers, even a few local news people covering the 25th reunion fluff story. They were going to see everything, and I was going to be standing right there, front row center, sipping my drink and watching the world catch fire around her. The night of the reunion, the town was drowning in that thick, humid air that clings to your skin and makes everything feel dirty. Eastbrook High looked just as miserable as it had when Laura roamed its halls, yellowed brick walls, broken outdoor lights, peeling banners flapping limply in the warm breeze. We pulled into the cracked parking lot. Laura was electric, fidgeting, with her hair in the mirror, tugging at the hem of her too-tight dress, swiping on lipstick like she was heading into battle. When she thought I wasn't looking, she checked her phone. Again and again. No doubt waiting for a message from Nick. I killed the engine and stepped out. Laura came around the car, smiling up at me, too wide, too desperate. She looped her arm, through mine. Are you excited? She chirped, trying to sound casual. I grunted. Sure. Inside, the restaurant was already packed. Crepe paper streamers hung limp from the ceiling. Folding chairs circled the dance floor. A long table sagged under the weight of cheap buffet trays, sweaty cheese cubes, dry chicken skewers, soggy spring rolls. A DJ, way too old for this kind of gig, was spinning tired tracks from the early 2000s, the music bouncing awkwardly off the cinder block walls. Laura dragged me through a crowd of strangers, old classmates who had either gotten fat, gone bald, or looked exactly like the miserable kids they used to be. I played the part, smiling, shaking hands, laughing at stupid jokes, and then I saw him. Nick. He was leaning against the bleachers, a beer in one hand, wearing a wrinkled button-down and jeans like he still thought he was hot crap. His head was shaved smooth now. His face was rough and red, like too many years of drinking and bad decisions had caught up to him. Laura stiffened the second she spotted him. I felt her grip on my arm tighten, a little tremble she couldn't hide. I leaned close to her ear. Relax, I said. Let's go meet your old flame. Before she could say anything, I peeled her hand off my arm and strode straight toward him. Nick, right? I said, sticking out my hand. He blinked, surprised, but plastered on a cocky smile and shook my hand hard, trying to assert himself. Yeah, and you must be the husband, he said, sizing me up. Ethan, I said, good to finally meet you. Laura's told me all about you. Nick's smile twitched, just for a second. Laura hovered awkwardly between us, fake laughing, brushing invisible lint off her dress. Nick chuckled. Good things, I hope. The best? I said smoothly, clapping him on the back a little too hard. We stood there making small talk, sports, cars, the old high school football team. Nick loosened up fast, the beer going to his head. He kept sneaking glances at Laura, who looked ready to crawl out of her own skin. I asked him about his job, some half-assed construction business he was managing. I asked about old classmates, who got fat, who got arrested, who overdosed. Every time Nick tried to steer the conversation toward the past, toward his wild days with Laura, I egged him on, laughing, asking for stories, playing the good-natured idiot. Man, we had some crazy nights back then, huh? Nick said, nudging Laura with his elbow. She gave a tight laugh and shot me a quick, nervous look. I just smiled. Crazy, I said, pretending not to get it. You two were close, huh? Nick grinned like he couldn't help himself. You could say that. Laura was a wild one. He laughed, a little too loud, always up for some fun. Laura's smile cracked. I watched her face, the desperation growing by the second. It was beautiful. The slideshow was set to start, I made sure. Derek's USB drive had been swapped in already. Had to hand it to the guy, smooth as hell. The MC never even noticed. I excused myself politely. Be right back. Don't have too much fun without me, I said, slapping Nick on the shoulder. I headed toward the back, by the exit doors, and found Derek lingering near the restaurant's breaker panel. He gave me a nod. Showtime, he muttered. From the edge of the room, I could see everything. Laura, standing stiff next to Nick, fake smiling, glancing around like a cornered animal. Nick, laughing, leaning closer, whispering something that made her flinch. The lights dimmed. The DJ cracked some joke about memory lane, and the first slide popped up. Grainy group photos from freshmen. Year the room oohed and awed. More slides, pep rallies, field trips, prom shots. The old crowd chuckled, elbowed each other, pointed at old bad haircuts and braces. And then, without warning, bam. One of Laura's filthy photos flashed across the screen. She was on her knees, topless, staring up at Nick with her tongue out, mascara smeared down her cheeks. For half a second, the room didn't react, like it couldn't process what it was seeing. Then the gasp started. A few shrieks, a ripple of horrified laughter. Another slide. Laura bent over a motel bed, Nick behind her, grinning like the piece of crap he was. Whispers turned into shouting. What the hell? Oh my God, is that Laura Carson? Jesus Christ. Laura froze like a rabbit caught in headlights. Her mouth worked soundlessly. Nick cursed and shoved his beer at some random guy bolting for the nearest exit. The MC scrambled to kill the projector, but Derek had locked the system. The photos kept cycling, faster now, each more disgusting than the last. And me? I stood in the shadows, sipping my drink, my face calm. When Laura finally turned and saw me across the room, saw that cold, merciless smile on my lips, she knew. She knew. I raised my glass to her in a silent toast. Cheers. You earned this. The chaos hit the restaurant like a bomb. A woman screamed. One of Laura's old friends, a plump brunette with a name tag that said Jessica, stumbled back into a table, knocking over a tray of wings. Another guy, some jock-turned-mortgage broker, roared with laughter so loud it echoed off the cinder block walls. The slideshow kept rolling mercilessly, every few seconds dropping another filthy, humiliating bomb. Laura's naked body, tied up, with motel bed sheets. Laura in Nick's lap, giggling, eyes glazed. Laura spread wide, clutching at Nick's hair. A real highlight reel. The DJ abandoned his booth. The MC, a sweaty guy in a wrinkled suit, banged uselessly on the laptop, trying to shut it down. He didn't have the admin password. Derek had seen to that. I watched from the shadows by the emergency exit, arms crossed, drink untouched. Laura looked like she was about to collapse. Her face had gone deathly white, except for two bright red spots burning on her cheeks. She staggered back a step, heels wobbling on the polished restaurant floor. All around her, whispers turned into open mockery. Wasn't she class president? Someone sneered. Guess she was extracurricular too, another chuckled. Somebody started slow clapping, the kind of clap you hear at a public hanging. Nick? Nick was long gone, probably peeling rubber out of the parking lot, pants barely zipped. Coward. Laura whirled around in a panic, looking for me, the one man she thought would still protect her. I stayed where I was. She found me. Our eyes locked, across the room. She tried to run toward me, arms reaching out, but tripped on her own heels and hit the restaurant floor with a slap that echoed louder than the music ever had. Silence fell. For a second, nobody moved. Then a ripple of laughter spread through the crowd. Ugly, cruel laughter. Laura scrambled up, one knee of her dress ripped, hair falling in tangled waves around her flushed face. Mascara streaks painted, her cheeks, like a clown at the end of a bad show. Finally, the MC yanked the power cord. The screen went black. The restaurant lights flickered back on, exposing every sick detail. And there she stood. I walked toward her, slow, deliberate. Each step on the restaurant floor sounded like a hammer hitting a coffin nail. When I reached her, she tried to grab my shirt. Ethan, please. I can explain. I grabbed her wrist, hard enough to make her whimper, and yanked it away. People were still watching, some pretending not to, others staring outright. Phones were already out, filming, snapping photos. This was small-town America. This scandal would be on Facebook, Instagram before midnight. I leaned down close to her ear. "You're done," I whispered coldly. "Everyone knows what you are now." Tears streamed down her face. She dropped to her knees again, this time not from a trip, and clutched at my leg. "I made a mistake," she sobbed. "It didn't mean anything. It was just nostalgia. It was stupid. Please, Ethan, please forgive me." I stepped back from her and let her fall forward onto her hands. There was a wet, ugly noise when her palms slapped the floor again. I turned without another word. Walked away, leaving her crumpled there like yesterday's trash. The old banners on the restaurant walls fluttered in the broken air conditioning. Eastbrook Pride. Once a panther, always a panther. What a joke. I made my way outside, the humid night air wrapping around me like a wet towel. Inside, Laura's world was burning to ash, and I hadn't even touched the match yet. The sky was black when I pulled into the driveway. The house loomed ahead, same house I worked my ass off to pay for. Every shingle, every cracked porch step, every goddamn blade of grass I mowed while Laura smiled and another man behind my back. The engine clicked as it cooled. I sat there for a moment, letting the silence settle over me, watching the porch light flicker and buzz. Inside, I could already see her silhouette moving through the front window, frantic, pacing back and forth. I took my time getting out. When I stepped through the front door, she was waiting, clutching a crumpled tissue, her makeup smeared into a clown mask. Her reunion dress was torn at the hem, one strap falling off her shoulder. She looked like a wreck dragged out of a sewer. She rushed me before I could even close the door. "Ethan, please listen to me. I swear to God it didn't mean anything. It was just a stupid mistake, just a few times. A few times. So much for, it meant nothing." I stepped around her, tossed my keys onto the entryway table, and started pulling off my jacket without saying a word. She kept following me into the living room, sobbing harder now. "We can fix this. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling. Please, you have to forgive me." I turned and looked at her. Really looked at her. The mascara trails, the ruined dress, the frantic hands. This wasn't my wife anymore. This was just some desperate animal begging not to be put down. "You're embarrassing yourself," I said quietly. The words hit her like a slap. She dropped to her knees right there on the carpet, grabbing the hem of my jeans. "I love you, Ethan. You're the only man I've ever really loved. Nick was nothing. It was stupid. It was nostalgia. It was pleasure." He pressured me. Pressure. I barked out a short, humorless laugh. "You're blaming him now?" I asked, staring down at her. She shook her head frantically. "No, yes, I don't know. I made a mistake. I was weak. Please, Ethan, you have to forgive me. We have kids. We have a life." There it was, the trump card. The kids. I stayed silent, walking past her toward the stairs. She scrambled after me on all fours like a dog. "Please, Ethan," she shrieked, grabbing my ankle. I shook her off like she was nothing. At the top of the stairs, I turned and looked down at her, still kneeling, still sobbing, still humiliated. "We had a life," I said coldly. "You killed it." I went into the guest room, the room she used to call the junk room, and shut the door behind me. The bed was hard, and the sheets smelled like dust. But I slept like a goddamn baby that night. Calm, dreamless, knowing exactly what came next. The morning was mercilessly bright. The sun blasted through the windows like a spotlight, showing every crack, every stain, every flaw in the house Laura thought she had under control. I dressed slowly. Dark jeans, leather jacket, heavy boots. The uniform of a man who wasn't asking for permission anymore. Laura sat at the kitchen table, head in her hands, a cup of untouched coffee steaming in front of her. She didn't look up when I entered. On the counter, I dropped a thick envelope. The slap of it hitting granite echoed in the quiet room. She flinched and looked up. Her eyes widened when she saw the label. Divorce papers. Her hand shook as she fumbled to open it. She flipped through the pages, her breathing getting faster with every line. Grounds for divorce, adultery, petitioner, Ethan James Carson. Custody of minor children, sole physical and legal custody awarded to petitioner. Thanks to the photos, thanks to the videos, thanks to the signed witness statements from half the damn town after last night, there wasn't a court in the state that would even blink before giving me everything. Laura's lips moved soundlessly, trying to form words. Finally, she croaked out, "You're taking the kids." I stared at her dead-eyed. "You gave them up the minute you cheated with Nick," I said flatly. "They deserve better." Tears streamed down her face again, but I didn't feel a damn thing. "Ethan, please," she whispered. I can't live without you. Without them." "That's not my problem anymore," I said. I picked up the manila envelope with a second copy of the papers, the one for my lawyer, stuffed it under my arm, walked toward the door without looking back. When I reached the threshold, I paused, took one last look around the house I had built, the memories we had poisoned, the life she had pissed away. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer," I said. And then, just for good measure, I tossed her wedding ring, the one she'd left lying on the nightstand like a cheap trinket, onto the kitchen table. It skittered across the granite and came to a stop near her hand. I slammed the door behind me and stepped into the morning sun. By noon that same day, I was sitting in my lawyer's office, a slick place downtown with leather chairs, polished marble floors, and the kind of view that made you feel like a king looking down on an empire. Greg Mason, my divorce attorney, leaned back in his chair, flipping through the stack of evidence I'd handed him. Photos, videos, witness statements from half the damn town who'd seen Laura's grand performance at the reunion. Greg whistled low, shaking his head. "Jesus, Ethan. You didn't just catch her, you nuked her." I shrugged. "She earned it." He chuckled. "This'll be the easiest case I've ever filed. By the time the court's done with her, she'll be lucky if she keeps her car." I signed the papers without hesitation. Every signature felt like a knife cutting through the last ties to the life she tried to destroy. By Friday, the temporary custody order came through. Full custody, both kids. Laura was granted supervised visitation, pending final judgment. Translation: she got to see them, if she could prove she wasn't drunk, drugged, or cheating. Good luck with that. The house. It was already in my name only. She'd never bothered to read the fine print when we refinanced 2 years ago. She trusted me. Mistake number 1. The cars. Both registered to me. I let her keep the old beater sedan she used for errands, fitting for a woman who threw her future in a motel trash can. The bank accounts. I'd moved my money weeks ago when I first suspected something. She was left with $317 and some loose change. Divorce finalized in 60 days. I watched from the front porch, arms crossed, sunglasses on, as she stumbled back and forth, loading garbage bags full of clothes into the trunk of her battered car. She tried one last time, standing at the edge of the porch with her hands wringing like a desperate little girl. Ethan, please, can't we talk? Just for a minute. I looked down at her, the faintest trace of a smirk touching my mouth. We already talked, Laura, I said. You just weren't listening. I turned and shut the door in her face. That night, the kids and I had pizza on the living room floor. We laughed, we played video games. I'd walk into the next chapter of my life. And Laura? She'd spend the rest of her life choking on the ashes of the empire she torched for a few sweaty motel nights. Good riddance.